I was driving home from a late shift when my headlights caught something on the side of the road. At first, I thought it was a person, someone in scrubs, standing perfectly still by the ditch. My stomach dropped because this stretch of highway is nothing but empty farmland for 30 miles. As I slowed, I realized it was a person, a nurse. She had the cap, the pale blue dress, even the old-fashioned shoes. She wasn't waving or asking for help. She was just staring at me. I rolled past her, too scared to stop, but my eyes flicked up to the rearview mirror. She was gone. The road was empty behind me, just black asphalt stretching forever. But the smell stayed in my car, the sharp sting of antiseptic, like a hospital corridor. And then my dashboard flickered, and the AI voice in my car, something I never use, came on by itself. It said, "You shouldn't have looked at her." I slammed my hand against the screen, trying to shut the damn thing off, but the voice kept repeating that same phrase. "You shouldn't have looked at her. You shouldn't have looked at her." My pulse hammered in my ears. I yanked the AUX cord out, turned the whole system off, even killed the engine for a second while coasting. Dead silence. Just the crunch of tires on gravel as I drifted to the shoulder. When I turned the car back on, the radio wasn't just off, it was gone. The display showed nothing but a blinking cursor, like an empty text box. And then words began to type themselves across the screen. "Do not go home." I stared at the words, my breath fogging the windshield. I actually laughed, this desperate, nervous bark, because what the hell else was I supposed to do? Sleep in my car on the side of a rural highway? I shoved the car into drive. "Screw this," I muttered, even though my hands were trembling. As soon as my headlights cut back through the dark, I noticed something wrong with the road. It didn't stretch ahead like it should. Instead, it curved sharply to the right, looping back toward itself. I thought I'd just gotten turned around. Except I recognized the same rusted green sign I'd passed 20 minutes ago. Same bullet holes pockmarking the letters. Same patch of weeds sprouting through the shoulder. I had driven in a circle. And standing by the sign, where there hadn't been anyone before, was a dog. Huge, black, shaggy, with eyes like twin holes burned into the night. Its head tilted as I slowed, and its mouth opened, not in a bark, not in a growl, but in silence. Like it was yawning into a void I couldn't see. I floored it. The tires screamed against the asphalt, but when I roared past the sign, the dog wasn't there anymore. Relief hit me like a shot of adrenaline, but it lasted about 2 seconds, because up ahead, standing in the center of the road, was that same nurse. Only this time, she was closer. I swerved hard enough that I felt 2 wheels lift off the ground before I slammed back down. My seatbelt locked across my chest. When I looked back in the mirror, she wasn't behind me. Instead, I saw a movement in the back seat. Just a ripple, like a shadow shifting where no shadow should be. And then the AI voice whispered again, quieter this time, like it was trying not to wake something. "Don't turn around." I gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. My whole body screamed to look, to check, because I could feel it, that pressure of something behind me, like when someone stares at the back of your head in a crowded room. But the voice repeated, barely audible under the engine hum. "Don't turn around." My eyes darted to the rearview mirror. I told myself I wouldn't, but instinct won. At first, there was nothing, just the faint outline of the back seat in the dim glow. And then the shadows shifted. It wasn't a person, not exactly. It was as if the darkness itself had slouched forward, leaning between the seats. No face, no features, just an impression of weight. I blinked, and it was gone. The road curved again, impossibly, the same bullet-riddled sign flashing past my headlights. The same circle. But this time, the black dog wasn't waiting by the sign. It was trotting behind my car, keeping pace effortlessly, its hollow eyes locked on me. I pressed harder on the gas, but no matter how fast I went, the dog stayed right there in the mirror, loping along, its body fluid, almost lazy, like it had all the time in the world. The AI chimed again. The voice warped now, glitching between tones. "You can't outrun it." The words scrolled across the dead display, too, each one burning into my eyes until they lingered even when I blinked. I shouted at the empty car, "What the hell do you want from me?" That was when the smell hit, sharp and metallic, like copper pennies heating on a stove. My stomach twisted. I knew that smell. Blood. I glanced down for half a second, and when I looked back up, my headlights illuminated something I shouldn't have been able to see. A house. Perfectly round, sitting in the middle of the road. White siding, windows stacked like watchful eyes, and a staircase curling up into nothingness. No driveway, no foundation, just sitting there, like it had been waiting for me. I slammed the brakes so hard my chest hit the wheel. The car skidded sideways, gravel spraying into the dark fields. When I stopped, I was less than 10 feet from the house. It wasn't abandoned. Lights burned in the windows, dim, yellow, the kind of glow you only get from old lamps. The staircase out front was wrong. It wound upward in a spiral, but halfway up it just stopped. Hanging in the air, steps leading nowhere. And still, I thought, shelter, phone, anything. I opened the door. The night air felt thick, pressing against me, but I forced myself out, legs trembling. Behind me, the dog had vanished. The road was empty. The house door creaked open on its own, just an inch. Enough to show me a sliver of hallway painted sterile white, like a hospital ward. And somewhere inside, faint but steady, I heard the squeak of rubber soles against linoleum. Someone was walking toward the door. I froze at the bottom of the stairs. The sound was clearer now, shoes squeaking, pausing, squeaking again. Slow, unhurried. The door creaked wider, though no hand touched it. I should have run. God, I should have gotten back in the car and peeled out, house or no house. But my body wouldn't move. It was like the sound of those footsteps had pinned me in place. Then I saw her, the nurse. The same pale dress, the same cap. She stepped into the doorway, head tilted at an unnatural angle, as if her neck couldn't quite hold the weight anymore. Her face was pale and waxy, lips moving, but no sound came out. I whispered, "What do you want?" The AI's voice spoke behind me, from the car, though I hadn't touched it. "She wants you to come inside." And before I could react, the nurse lifted one hand and beckoned. I shook my head, muttering, "No, no way." But the ground beneath me didn't seem to agree. The gravel shifted, tilting upward as if the earth itself wanted to tip me forward. My knees buckled, and suddenly I was stumbling up the steps. The nurse didn't move. She just waited, hand still raised in that slow, patient beckon. I tried to grab the railing for balance, but there wasn't one. My fingers closed on empty air, yet I felt something cold and slick under my palm, like wet metal. The staircase went higher than it had looked from the road, curling and curling until it scraped the sky. My chest heaved as I realized the house below was shrinking, the car a toy now, the road a thin gray line. And then, without warning, the stairs ended, just stopped in midair, as if whoever built them had grown tired halfway through. The nurse stood on the last step, balanced effortlessly, staring into the black void beyond. She pointed at it, and in the dark, something shifted, like a massive animal exhaling. I clutched the final step, dizzy, the wind howling in my ears. The void beyond wasn't just dark, it swallowed the light. Even the nurse's pale dress seemed to dissolve at the edges, as if the blackness were eating her. She didn't look at me. She kept pointing, hand trembling slightly, lips still moving without sound. Then I heard it. Not with my ears, exactly, but inside my skull. A wet, dragging breath, like lungs filled with water. And beneath it, scratching. Enormous claws raking against something unseen. The nurse suddenly snapped her head toward me. Her eyes rolled white, and in a voice that wasn't hers, she hissed, "Jump!" The step under my feet cracked like rotten wood. Splinters dropped into the void and vanished without a sound. Behind me, the spiral stairs I'd climbed were gone. Only the endless night stretched back where the house and road had been. I was trapped. The only way forward was into that breathing dark. I screamed that I wouldn't do it. I wasn't going to step off into nothing. But the void didn't care what I wanted. The air shifted, pulling at me like a tide. My body lurched forward even as I clawed at the crumbling step. My fingernails tore against the wood, skin splitting, blood slicking my grip. The nurse stepped backward into the darkness, as if she were walking onto solid ground. She dissolved inch by inch until only her hand remained, pale and reaching. The AI's voice hissed in my ear, though there was no car anymore, no speakers, nothing but that voice. "Don't fight it. You'll only make it worse." My strength gave out. The step collapsed, and I was yanked forward into the black. There was no falling, no sensation of air rushing past me, just an instant of weightlessness, and then, floor. I slammed into it so hard my teeth rattled. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the sky or the void. I was in a hallway, Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. White walls. The smell of disinfectant. A hospital. I staggered to my feet, every bone in my body aching from the impact. The hallway stretched in both directions, identical, endless. Doors on either side, each marked with peeling numbers. No windows. No sound except the flicker and buzz of the overhead lights. I touched one of the doors. It was cold, too cold, like metal left in snow. When I tried the handle, it turned easily, but the room inside was empty. Just 4 blank walls, no bed, no equipment. The next door, the same. And the next. By the 5th door, my nerves were shot, but when I pulled it open, I froze. Inside, a figure sat on the floor. A man, or what was left of one. His skin was gray, his mouth gaping wide like he'd been frozen mid-scream. His eyes were gone, hollow sockets staring at me. For a second, I thought he was dead. Then his chest rose with a ragged, wheezing breath. He lifted one trembling hand and pointed past me, back into the hallway. I turned. At the far end, just barely visible under the stuttering lights, stood the black dog. Waiting. My stomach dropped. That thing didn't belong here. It didn't belong anywhere. The man on the floor rasped, a sound like air leaking from a punctured lung. Don't let it touch you. The dog's head tilted, its body too still, like a mannequin waiting to be animated. Then it began to move. Not running, not even walking, just gliding, paws scraping but never lifting. I stumbled backward, slamming the door shut between me and the eyeless man. My heartbeat hammered so loud it drowned out the buzzing lights. The hallway behind me stretched on, impossible in length, every door identical. I ran. My shoes squeaked against the linoleum, echoing too loud, like the sound was drawing the thing closer. I risked a glance over my shoulder. The dog was still coming. No faster, no slower, just steady, inevitable. And then, halfway down the hall, I saw stairs. Concrete steps leading down, vanishing into shadow. The first way out I'd seen. I didn't think. I just bolted for them. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my breath ragged, throat burning. The overhead lights flickered out the deeper I went, until the only glow came from above, the buzzing fluorescence fading fast as I plunged into shadow. Halfway down, I made the mistake of looking back. The dog had stopped at the top of the stairwell. It didn't follow. It just stood there, silhouetted, its hollow eyes catching the last sliver of light. For a heartbeat, I thought I was safe. Then I heard it. Not paws. Not claws. Footsteps. Human. Slow, deliberate. From below, a woman's voice floated up, distorted, echoing against the concrete walls. Visitor, visitor, visitor. The word repeated, stretched thin, like a tape recording warping in and out. The nurse. I froze, trapped between the dog above and her voice below. And then, click. A light snapped on at the bottom of the stairs, blinding and sterile. I squinted through it and saw the outline of a door. A way out. But the footsteps were getting louder. I didn't care who, or what, waited for me at the bottom. I bolted, my shoes pounding the concrete steps, each echo louder than the last. The voice warped as I ran. Visitor. Closer. I hit the bottom and slammed into the door. It flew open so easily it almost knocked me off balance. I stumbled inside and froze. It wasn't outside. It wasn't freedom. It was another hallway, identical to the one above. Same buzzing lights. Same peeling numbers on endless doors. Behind me, the stairwell was gone. Just a seamless wall of white. I turned in a slow circle, my throat closing up. No escape. Just this repeating maze. Then I noticed one difference. At the far end of this hallway, the doors weren't closed. They were open. Every single one. Yawning into black rooms that seemed far too deep, far too dark. And in each doorway, something shifted. Just enough movement to know they weren't empty. I couldn't see faces. Only shapes, half-formed, crowding the frames. And they were all leaning out, watching me. I hugged the wall, inching forward, trying not to look directly into the open rooms. My skin crawled anyway. I could feel their eyes, or whatever counted for eyes, tracking me. Every step I took, they leaned a little further into the light. Shapes that didn't make sense. Too tall, too thin, limbs bent the wrong way, like shadows stretched across broken glass. One of them whispered, I don't know which. A dry hiss that seemed to come from all the doors at once. Stay. My legs almost buckled. I forced myself to keep moving. eyes locked on the far end of the hall where another door waited. A real one, solid, shut tight. I was halfway there when something moved faster than the others. A hand, long, black, fingers like wire, snapped out of a doorway and clamped around my wrist. The skin burned where it touched me, cold so intense it felt like fire. I screamed and yanked back, but the grip was iron. And then another arm shot out of the darkness. And another. They weren't just watching anymore. They were trying to pull me in. I thrashed, heels scraping against the linoleum, nails tearing at the floor. The hands multiplied, pale and black, slick and dry, too many to count. They gripped my arms, my ankles, my shirt, dragging me toward the yawning dark of the room. The smell hit me then, rot and bleach, a nauseating mix that clung to my throat. I screamed until my voice cracked. Let me go? Let me go? For a moment, I thought they would win. My body tilted into the doorway, half swallowed by shadow. I felt cold lips brush my ear, whispering something I couldn't understand, except for one word. Home. Rage surged up from somewhere deeper than fear. I kicked out with everything I had, boot connecting with the doorframe. The jolt loosened their grip just enough. I ripped free and hurled myself down the hall, sobbing, stumbling. Behind me, the doors slammed shut one by one. Bang, bang, bang. Each hit rattled the walls, chasing me toward the single closed door at the end. I didn't think. I just grabbed the handle and flung it open. On the other side wasn't a hallway. It was my living room. I staggered inside, slamming the door behind me, gasping like I'd just surfaced from drowning. The silence hit first. No buzzing lights, no footsteps, no whispers. Just the faint hum of my refrigerator in the kitchen, my couch, my coffee table, my lamp with the crooked shade. Home. I almost collapsed with relief, pressing my back against the door. Tears burned hot in my eyes. I kept muttering, "It's over, it's over, it's over," like saying it enough would make it true. Then I noticed the clock on the wall. The hands weren't moving. Both were stuck pointing straight down, frozen at 6. The air smelled wrong, too. Not my apartment's usual mix of dust and detergent. This was sharper, bitter. That same antiseptic tang I'd smelled on the road when the nurse first appeared. I took one shaky step toward the couch. The carpet felt wet beneath my sock. Sticky. When I looked down, my heart stopped. A dark red trail smeared across the floor, leading from the front door deeper into my apartment. And the AI voice whispered, so close it felt like it was in my skull. She's already here. I followed the trail, each step slower than the last. The red streak glistened in the lamplight, fresh, too fresh. It led past the couch, into the narrow hallway where my bedroom door stood half open. The silence was suffocating. I nudged the door wider with trembling fingers. She was there, the nurse, standing at the foot of my bed, her head tilted the same impossible angle as before. Her cap hung loosely, stained, her pale dress spattered with something darker than blood. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking down, at the bed. I forced my eyes to follow hers, and my stomach lurched. Someone was lying there. Someone who looked exactly like me. The copy's chest rose and fell, shallow, unconscious. My own face, my own hands curled limply against the sheets. The nurse finally turned, her lips peeling into a smile that split too wide. "You made it home," she whispered, in that warped, static-laced voice. Behind me, I heard claws skitter across the floor. The dog had followed me inside. I backed against the doorframe, shaking my head over and over. No, no, that's not me. That's not. The nurse's smile stretched wider, until her skin split at the corners. She lifted a trembling hand and gestured toward the bed. "Lie down," she whispered. The dog padded into the hallway, silent except for the drip of something wet hitting the carpet. Its eyes weren't eyes anymore. They were bottomless holes, swallowing the dim light of my lamp. It stopped beside her, waiting. I couldn't breathe. My double stirred in the bed, lips parting, mouthing words I couldn't hear. The soundless motion was unbearable, like watching a dream version of myself try to wake up. The AI voice filled the apartment again, every speaker buzzing in unison, vibrating in my bones. "One of you has to stay." The nurse took a step closer. The dog growled low, a sound that seemed to come from the walls themselves. I turned to run, back through the hallway, out any door, anywhere. But when I grabbed the handle, it wasn't a door anymore, just a wall. And behind me, The whisper came again, right against my ear. You shouldn't have looked at her.